Break the ice. Yeah. Life has taught me this. Every day is new. And if anything is true, all that matters when we're through is how we love. Faced with what we lack, some things fall apart, but from the ashes new dreams start. All that matters to the heart is how we love. How we love. How we love. From the smallest act of kindness, in a word, a smile, a touch. In spite of our mistakes, chances come again. If we lose or if we win, all that matters in the end is how we love. How we love. How we love. I will not forget your kindness when I needed it so much. Sometimes we forget, trying to be strong in this world of right and wrong. All that matters when we're gone, all that mattered all along, all we have that carries on is how we love. It's how we love. It's how we love.
What a beautiful way to start our morning together. Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Hamilton, and welcome to everyone joining us in person and online. We are so glad you are here with us today. My name is Reverend Jamie Boyce. My pronouns are she, her, and I have the great privilege of serving this congregation as its interim minister, and I am also today's service leader. I want to thank today's service team, which includes our music ministry, Joanne Deere, and Cindy. That is a gripping failure of memory right there. Our tech team today is Josh McIntyre, Marianne Forbes, Brian Carey, and John Elliott. Thank you for all your hard work today, making sure our service proceeds without a hitch. Our religious educator, Tim Versteeg, is going to share our story for all ages this morning. And most importantly of all, today we have a guest speaker. Dan Tapley will be giving our homily this morning. Dan and his family, Brenda and Chase, have been members here since 2019. Get that right? Dan shares that he loves the inclusivity of the church and the recognition that spirituality is a personal journey. Indeed, we are fortunate today to hear a bit about Dan's journey on this special Father's Day service. As we gather and center, please take a moment to silence your devices and check in with them so there's no surprises. We acknowledge that the city of Hamilton is situated on the ancestral lands of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas people on Treaty 3 territory. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe to share and care for the life and land of the Great Lakes. Those of us who are settlers on this land continue to benefit from the ongoing harms and injustices of colonialism. As settlers, we must inhabit a living commitment to undoing those systems of harm. We must learn new ways of being as a path of restoration and relationship with people and the earth. Our chalice represents the light of hope at the center of our faith tradition. The spark of this flame draws us into our time of worship and community. I invite Brenda and Chase to light our chalice this morning. Please join me in our chalice lighting words on the screen behind me. May this flame be our light of friendship and love. Thank you. We gather this morning in the light and warmth of summer to celebrate the many formations of fathering and fatherhood in our midst. It's a day to pause, to hold gently and gracefully, carefully, the memories of those who have shaped us and brought us into being. May our time together this morning be blessed by the comfort of community, and may the spark of love ignite a fire we carry into the future. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your journey of faith and search for truth and meaning, today you are one of us, and you are welcome in this house of worship. Let us open our hearts and minds as we gather to worship on this glorious day. This morning, we have a special celebration. Again, this has been a month of celebrations. In the past year, our community has grown, and we are overjoyed to welcome and affirm those who are new to our community, those who have chosen us on a journey of love and justice. This morning, I invite members of our visitor congregational engagement team to join up front around the table if you're with us this morning. Dramatic pause. And I invite Clara Cyber-Simich, Angela Morgan, Peter Morgan, and Ann Treadwell to join us at the front as well. Yeah, you can gather around. Yeah, there, that looks good from here. Clara, Angela, Peter, and Ann, we are honored to welcome you this morning, to embrace you in our care and commitment, and invite you into the community of Unitarian Universalist faith, a free faith that encourages you to learn, to grow, a community that cares for you and is made better by you, a free faith that is made special not by creed but by covenant. I invite us to welcome our new members with the traditional words of this congregation. They're displayed on the screen behind me. I invite the congregation to say to our new members, to you who are now joining our church as new members, we extend a warm welcome and our blessing. May the journey we take together nurture and enrich our lives through our bonds of fellowship and love. And then all together, including our new members, as members of the First Unitarian Church of Hamilton, we respect the honest search for truth and meaning in all persons and all religions. We strive to accept differences as opportunities for growth in our life as a community of faith. We celebrate and honor our common purpose with a shared commitment to enhance the quality of life for all.
My name is Barb Wallace, and I'm the president of this congregation. It's my great joy to welcome you all to our beloved community, and we look forward to the wonderful ways that you will be changed by your presence. We are so happy that you are with us in community as we live into our mission to nurture each other, serve the community, and inspire action that heals the world. Welcome.
Well, welcome to our community. Welcome to this place of belonging. May this community be a source of joy and hope, a place to rest and renew your spirit, and a place to celebrate the great mysteries of our lives. Welcome. We celebrate you. This service is a reminder that we are never alone, and we discover each other in community and discover ourselves. In the fall, we will continue to welcome new members, including those who could not be here today. If you would like to know more about our congregation, how to get involved or how to join, you can check in with one of our visitor and congregational engagement folks. They are here every Sunday reaching out and welcoming people to our community. Now we will enjoy our first hymn, We Give Thanks.
We're going to sing hymn number 1010, We Give Thanks. When we are all together, this song is pretty fun. Everyone sings aloud and claps along. So I encourage you, wherever you may be, to sing loud and clap along. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for the time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Let's go. Oh, we give
So about 20 years ago, when that one that's busily walking around was 9 months old, my wife gave me an incredible gift. We knew we wanted somebody to stay home with our children, and she gave me the gift of being a stay-at-home dad. So there are many ways to be fathers in this world, and that was a way I needed to adjust to, because up until that time I'd been a sales-like person for a pet food company, and I've been on the road all the time, and suddenly I was in a much different place. And somebody gave me a book that I'm going to read this morning at that time, which is all about different ways of being a dad. And it is called Mr. Seahorse by Eric Carle. And I don't have my little thing up here, so I'm going to have to look around a bit this morning. Mr. and Mrs. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea. Mrs. Seahorse began to wiggle and twist this way and that. "It's time for me to lay my eggs," she said. "Can I help?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Oh, yes, thank you," said Mrs. Seahorse. And she laid her eggs into a pouch on Mr. Seahorse's belly. "I'll take good care of our eggs," said Mr. Seahorse. "I promise." As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a group of trumpet fish hidden in a patch of reeds. There they are. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Stickleback?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Delighted," replied Mr. Stickleback. "I just built a nest, and right away Mrs. Stickleback laid her eggs into it. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch." "Keep up the good work," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a lionfish hidden behind a coral reef. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Tilapia?" asked Mr. Seahorse. Mr. Tilapia couldn't answer. His mouth was full of eggs. I know, said Mr. Seahorse. Mrs. Tilapia laid her eggs. Now you are taking good care of them until they hatch." Mr. Tilapia nodded his head. "You must be very happy," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by several leaf fish hidden among the seaweed. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Curtis?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Perfectly fine," replied Mr. Curtis. "Mrs. Curtis laid her eggs and I have stuck them on my head. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch." "You are doing a good job," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a stonefish hidden behind a rock. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Pipe?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Couldn't be better," replied Mr. Pipe. "Mrs. Pipe laid her eggs along my belly. Now I'm taking good care of them until they hatch." "You should feel proud of yourself," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Bullhead?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Tip-top," replied Mr. Bullhead. "Mrs. Bullhead laid her eggs and the eggs hatched. Now I'm babysitting." "You're doing a fine job," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. Although some of us call it parenting, not babysitting. Just saying. The time had come for the seahorse babies to be born. Mr. Seahorse wiggled and twisted this way and that. At last, the babies tumbled from Mr. Seahorse's pouch and swam away. One baby turned around and tried to come back into the pouch. "Oh, no," said Mr. Seahorse. "I do love you, but now you are ready to be on your own." Although 20 years later, Petra's still in my attic. I just have to say. We are going to receive an offering, and then there will be a song, and during the song for all ages, if the kids want to gather by that door with Petra and Vanessa and I, we'll head outside to play some games. I am glad she's still home. You're right.
As Tim shared, now is the time of the service where we receive the gifts of community. The spirit of generosity is at the heart of religious community. When we share our resources, we are ensuring the continued work of the church here in our building and in the world beyond. Thank you for your gifts. I invite you to give joyfully and with love.
This is
You Got a Friend in Me
Yep, by Claire and Dad.
by Claire and Dad.
You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. When the road looks rough ahead and you're miles and miles from a nice warm bed, you just remember what your old pal said. Yeah, you got a friend in me. Girl, you got a friend in me.
The second verse. I'm doing the second verse. You got friends in me. You got a friend in me. You got troubles. I got them too. There isn't anything I wouldn't do for you. We stick together, can see it through. 'Cause you got a friend in me. Yeah, you got a friend in me.
Some other folks might be a little bit smarter than I am, bigger and stronger too. But none of them will ever love you the way I do. It's just me and you, girl.
And as the years go by,
Our friendship will never die. You're gonna see it's our destiny. You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. Yeah, you got a friend in me. Good singing.
Thank you. And wasn't that tune a gift? We are so lucky. I invite us into a time of reflection and contemplation. Perhaps find your feet beneath you, feel your breath. Maybe hold your heart. Feel that heartbeat. Close your eyes if that feels good, and take a deep breath. Our meditation today is a reflection by Leah Angiri called More Truth-Telling and Healing. It is a reflection for Father's Day. Today and on all other days, May we give thanks for the fathers, papas, pop-pops, dads, and daddies who represent for us the steadfast presence that holds us in love and launches us into the world, whether we encounter it when we are small or already grown. May we be mindful of those for whom this day is complicated or irrelevant or even downright painful. Some among us have no relationship with our fathers for whatever reason. Some of us have had hard and broken edges separating us from our fathers. Some of us have longed to assume the role of father and never had the chance to take on its magic and mystery. Some among us have fathered in ways that will never be recognized or appreciated, that will never be counted in any official reckoning. Amid the grief and difficulty of this day, may we remember to see and revel in the people of all genders who love and support and nurture and parent and father. May our gratitude for the good and the healthy be a balm for the places of pain. May it point us in the direction of more truth-telling and more healing, more love and more connection on Father's Day and on all other days. Let us hold this meditation and the quiet and care of this community.
Good morning. I kind of want to start with a deep breath. My inner introvert right now is curled up somewhere in the fetal position, screaming. When Reverend Jamie sent the email out with today's topic, I kind of left at the chance, which is pretty easy to do behind a screen for me. But for the past few years, I've had a collection of life events coming from my experiences as a parent and as a scouter with Scouts Canada kicking around in my head. And I thought, this is the one. This is where it fits. In the scouting world, we try to lead a youth-led program. That means where we do what the kids want to do, within limits, of course, to keep them safe. And so I titled this collection of life events, How to Take the Lead Without Taking the Lead. In most cases, I want to be honest, the stories can be told without having identifiable information, but some of them involve Chase, and I felt it was important to get his permission. And he's actually read through this and said it's okay to proceed with it. And the only reason he's not in that chair is that would just make it harder. So one of the common things I hear in scouting is some scouters say, kids can't lead. And I find that's an opinion that I vehemently deny, as I've seen it through youth as young as 5, all the way up into the teenage years. In this way, I feel sometimes we fail to extend that first principle to our kids, the inherent worth of all people. I'm going to provide some of the examples where I think they deserve it. Now, the biggest thing to remember about letting the youth take the lead is you meet them where they're at. It's commonly thought youth-led means you sit back, you put your arms up, and you do nothing, and you just let the kids go with it. But you got to meet them where they're at. Some of the kids have that burning idea in them, and they need it to come out. And they let you know what the idea is, and you roll with it. And you help them get that idea out and into a realization. In other cases, they can take the idea, they can plan it, and they can execute it. You're merely there to help them and kind of latch on and hang on for dear life as you go through it. In other cases, the situation just kind of jumps up and the kids jump in and take the lead without you even needing to do anything. And they might even not know that they're showing leadership in doing that. Early in my days as a scouter, I tended to plan enough activity for 3 meetings. When I was planning for 1 meeting, really, reason being was if an activity flopped, I could just quickly move on to the next activity and not worry about it. As I was laying out the materials for a meeting night one night, a young Beaver Scout, they're 5 to 7 years old, tapped me on the side. And he was excited to tell me about his trip to the Dundas Museum. I had to stop him mid-sentence with the excitement. And I said, that sounds like a lot of fun. Is that something that you want to share with your friends in the Beaver Colony? And he nodded his head. A dozen 5 to 7-year-olds sat riveted as they listened to their peer talk about his experience. When he finished up 45 minutes later, I finally had my chance to speak. I asked but one question. I said, do you think we should plan a trip to the museum? We had unanimous, like everyone wanted to do it. So now, I had the meeting I just tossed out the window. I had the trip to the museum. I was set. And it's all because I let my young friend take the lead. I soon found out another valuable lesson, though, is I needed a few minutes of sharing time at the start of every meeting because once they know you're going to listen to them, they're going to share. One time we held a skating event, and before I continue the story, I must say I'm a very non-standard Canadian. Never learned how to skate. Fall, yes. Skate, no. That night, I remained in my boots, ready to help with any falls. I watched as most kids got out on the ice, and they're flying around. One youth toddled apprehensive on the ice and was using something to help him skate and stay up. I could see the fear, and I could see him kind of hunched down. He was embarrassed that he was there. And before I could do anything, because I wanted to reach out to him, one of the other kids came flying up on skates and completely wiped out in front of him. And I gotta swear this was planned because as he slid past the kid, he looked up and he goes, it's okay to fall. Suddenly, we had a very different youth on our hands. He was still using the walker device to help him skate, but his chest was up and he was proud. And if he fell, he got right back up and continued doing it. And a true leader is someone that can encourage people to go outside their comfort zone and go with it. And I know that it's something I tend to forget as an adult. It's okay to fall once in a while. It's getting back up and continuing on. Last month, I had the privilege to spend a weekend at camp with a bunch of venturer scouts. They're 15 to 17-year-olds. Now, if you'd been out at camp Friday night, you would have seen typical goofy teenagers. And all I was thinking was, there's no way can they pull this off. On Saturday, they had planned a 3-hour event for the Beaver Scouts. And they hadn't planned it just for their own group, but for many groups. They had 30 to 50 kids planning to attend. So Saturday morning, as breakfast was getting cooked up and everything, you could see still the goofiness was there, but all of a sudden it was like, oh, don't forget, you got to take care of this, and you're taking care of that, and the plan started to come out. And from what I saw, they pulled off the event, and everyone had a lot of fun. Youth can lead, but it takes a willingness on our part to listen respectfully to others, no matter their age. We must be ready to work with their ideas, and we must be there to coach and encourage as needed. A certain level of goofiness helps too. I know I'm kind of accused of that a lot of times in scouting. When I think of mentoring, I often think of Biosphere 2, which was an Earth research facility set up in Arizona in the 90s. Biosphere 2 was originally built to be an artificial enclosed ecosystem. Scientists found that trees grown inside the system would only get to a certain height and then they'd fall over. And they were perplexed for a while. Why is that happening? And they finally figured it out. There was no wind. In the real world, trees grow with wind, and they learn that there's that stress there. So they plant their roots deep in the ground to kind of protect them and keep them up. And that's what helps them to grow nice and tall. Same principle applies to our youth. A certain level of stress kind of helps them grow. In scouting, I'm kind of drawn to the shy, quiet kids. As I already said, my inner introvert's kind of screaming right now. I know they're giving in to their fears. I know because that's me. They usually give the biggest resistance to getting out there of their comfort zone and going with it. I'm the guy that'll hang at the back of a hike as a sweep with another scouter, walking with a kid who's telling me, I can't hike, it's too dark, I've never hiked this far, I don't know where I'm going. And they never stop to notice that as they're telling me all this, we're still walking. And eventually I have to stop them, which by now their stories kind of changed into a toy they like or a show they like or something in nature they saw. And do you see what we just did? And they kind of all of a sudden look up and they're not quite sure what's going on, and I'm kind of hit the point home. We did it. We finished the hike. Most of our youth are excited to learn how to light a proper campfire. The minority of youth dread that meeting. They've never touched a match before and they're scared. They will sit back and let everyone else go. At one meeting, we had one young man who did exactly that. He didn't want to touch a match. And with some gentle coaxing, we finally got him up to the fire pit. And on his very first try, he lit that match. And his response was a primal scream, and he threw the match into the fire pit where it went out. Not 5 seconds later, a very different youth said, "Can I try that again?" And we said, well, of course. But then we also offered him some tips. Well, maybe this time if you try this or try that, and he got more comfortable with it and more confident. I learned in my early days also just to kind of, I was always fearful of those kids showing up at camp with a stuffed animal, of having other kids make fun of them. So I thought, well, we'll nip that in the bud. So this is my stuffy Sam, and he'll sit there. He's gone to every camp with me, and yes, he is a relic from my childhood. He's a great extra pillow for me when I need it, but sometimes he's also a great comfort for the youth. It's the first time they're away from home sometimes without their parents. They're in a place that's unfamiliar for sleep, and usually everything's fine. They're having a load of fun until that bedtime realization sets in. Demands to call home immediately follow. I always tell them, well, you know, we're out at camp, half-hour drive at least, and in my group, we come from all over the place, so it could be up to an hour for the parents to get there. So why don't we get in our pajamas, so that way when you go home, then you're ready. And then when they're ready, then we sit down to a story. The longest time was about 2 hours of reading that book. And at that point, I gently suggested to some sagging eyes that maybe your parents are really late. Why don't we just go, you can lay down in your bed, and I'll wake you when they get here. And by the next morning, everything's forgotten. They totally forgot that I didn't call their parents. And usually that's typically on the last night. So I tried my best that when parents show up, I head them off the path, say, okay, here's the story. I told them I called you, and this is why. And in most cases, they say, well, what time would you have called me? Sometimes it's as early as midnight. Sometimes it's as late as 2 in the morning. And I've never had a parent say, what? You never called me. They've always said, thank you. I've only been caught once, though, where the youth found his parents before I did. He turned to me and he was very upset. He's like, you never called my parents. I'm like, I know. That's because I knew you could do it. Now, as I was reading through this and practicing this week, I was thinking, wow, I really sound like a tyrant. So I want you to know that I don't force kids to stay at camp. If I read them right, then I know that, okay, the anxiety is going to take over. They're not going to sleep tonight. They're not going to have a good time. I need to call parents. But in cases where I know the sleep's going to win out, I kind of go with it and tell the little white lie and continue it on. Now, what happens when these kids grow up? They become much more confident in themselves. In scouting, we have different levels of training. The basic level is called Wood Badge 1, and when you complete it, it's signified by a leather woggle that is tied in what's called a Turk's head knot. It means you can handle yourself with the basics. The next level is called Wood Badge 2, and is signified by a pair of beads that are on a leather thong. Now, when they come, they're not actually tied into what's the necklace. It's meant that you find a scouter of significance to tie them for you in a knot. And I've always reserved that Wood Badge 2 kind of designation for those elite scouters, certainly not me. And at one camp, I had a rover scout who I'd seen grow up as a teenager into the program, now an adult, say to me, that program you're running actually qualifies as part of the training for Wood Badge 2, right? And wouldn't have an idea. I don't have my Wood Badge 2. He was shocked. He just assumed that I'd had it. And he set out to rectify that right away because he had already been working with me for a few years and knew that apparently I qualified. I didn't see it myself. So he decided that it was up to him to be my mentor because to go through the checklist, you need a mentor scouter. So we sat down, and it was him that told me, look, you checked off everything on the list. You are one of those scouters. You know stuff. So when it came time to actually find the person to tie this for me, I had several people that have been my mentors through the years in scouting, but I could only think of one person I thought was the right person for this, and that was a youth, a youth that I had mentored, who is now my mentor. I'd like to tell you that I've taught many kids many things, but I put more significance on what they've taught me. It's healthy to go outside of your comfort zone, and there will be people there who will help you along the way. And often you know more and are capable of more than you think. Now, all these scouting stories, you might think Chase has been ignored, but all these stories, I was telling some people today that when youth come to scouting or any youth-led or youth organization, they're not just your kid anymore. They're also someone else's kid. So I've had, I don't know, I want to say hundreds of kids that I would consider my own. And so all these stories have emotional impact, but the ones with Chase have even more. And they're also the most emotionally triggering for me. As I do in most things with life, I downplay my impact and look at it that Chase is more important in this story. But when it does come out and hit me of where the impact shows, it happens in the most wonderful ways. A few years ago, while we were vacationing in BC, I decided we needed to tackle a mountain trail up Dog Mountain. Brenda and I had done it several years before. Chase, our son's friend, and I set out and we're going to attempt it. Now, we were on vacation, didn't plan on any hiking, so didn't have proper hiking footwear. We were in sneakers. And as I've already mentioned, I know how to fall. So partway up the mountain, I wiped out on a pair of wet roots. And this is where the generational divide comes in because the kids were very concerned. They weren't concerned about me. They were concerned about the cell phone clipped to my side that I didn't damage it when I fell. I was concerned I was okay. At that point, decisions were made that were out of my control. I didn't choose this. Chase just decided on his own. He was taking up the lead. At that point on, he was pointing out it's safer to go this way. Oh, look, the trail goes this way, because the trail wasn't very well marked. And if we can bring up the first slide, that's the top of Dog Mountain Trail. And that's the best I could do to capture that moment. And I know it's his back looking out over Metro Vancouver. And just the way he's got his arms crossed is like, yeah, in my mind, it's I led us here. And he's right, and he should be proud of that feat. We don't always realize that we can pass our interests on to our kids. And that became very evident to me in recent events. In 2020, I decided the pandemic was just a drop in the bucket and I needed to have a few more health concerns. So while I was on a solo bike ride, I crashed at nearly 30 kilometers an hour and dislocated my shoulder. As surgery approached last December, we were talking about the upcoming surgery and Chase said, "I'm glad." "Why are you glad?" And he said, "It means we can finally get out on a bike ride because doctors have told me you can't get on a bike until we clear you." So happily in April this year, we finally got out on a bike ride together, and I don't want to mention that he crashed, but he bounced a lot better than I did. In the fall of 2021, we've been taking up hiking for a while, but we went out on a hike with the Niagara Bruce Trail Club. Chase's only complaint was, "I have to get up how early to get down to Niagara on time?" I'm like, "It doesn't matter, you can sleep in the car." Finally, begrudgingly, he did do it. We were out in the middle of the hike. It was about a 12-kilometer hike, and this lady approached him on a break, and she was looking really confused, and she says to him, "What did your dad promise you to come on this hike?" This was Chase's turn to look confused, and he just looked up at her and he's like, "He promised me a hike?" She just looked at him. She couldn't fathom that I didn't bribe him with something else. It was just the love of being out in nature and on a hike that got him out there. Now, I built a career in the computer business on fixing things. And when I'm unable to fix something, that really makes me feel helpless. That feeling can spill over into fatherhood in many ways. Last summer, while we were on a camping trip, Brenda called us up to let us know that one of our beloved cats had passed away. Now, the loss of a pet hits anyone really hard. But to watch your kid go through that hurts especially much. The next day while we were hiking on the trail, I wanted to fix it. I wanted to be there to make Chase feel better. I kept checking in with him. "Are you okay? Do you want to talk? Are you okay?" And finally, he just threw his hands up in the air. "Dad, I'm fine. Sometimes I just need to hear the sound of the woods." And I had that reaction too. Like, it floored me. Like, wow, that is amazing. So I just went with it. It's like, all right. So at that point, I let the woods take it and do their job. I just stood back and I was there if he needed me. Funnily enough, it's not and actually I missed that slide. That's the Niagara Bruce Trail hike. And then we can go to the next slide. Sorry, I totally forgot to cue you. And this was on that particular hike shortly after he had said, "I need to hear the sound of the woods." And again, I know it's his back, but to me that picture is important because it caught to me that feeling in that moment. Funnily enough, it's not the only time I've been taught the lesson of giving that kid space when they need it. On a previous camping trip several years before, Chase's friend woke him up in the middle of the night. She needed to use the washroom and she didn't want to go alone. After a little convincing, the two of them set out together. Now, as an adult, I could have gotten out of the tent I was sharing with the dog, but I looked to the dog. If you can bring up that slide, I'll do a better job this time. Now picture this inside the tent. His eyes were glued to that tent wall as if he had x-ray vision. His ears were up kind of like there in that, because this was taken the next day when the kids wandered off, and he was watching the kids. But he was looking through that tent, but he didn't make a move. Okay. Decisions were made in that moment. Chase's friend made the right decision not to go alone. Chase made the right decision after a little coaxing to actually not let her go alone. And I chose to follow the dog's right decision and let them do it. Now, when they did come back and you heard the respective sleeping bags get zipped up, that was when I saw the dog settle down again, head go down, and he went back to sleep. And I did the same. So how do we show the youth their inherent worth? We let them take the lead in ways that match their abilities. We give them a safe place to step out of their comfort zone. We show a willingness not just to teach them, but to learn from them. And we listen with an open mind and an open heart. And you never forget, it's okay to fall, but sometimes you have to plant your feet heavily on the ground and face that wind head on. Thank you.
Number 1021, Lean on Me.
When you need a hand, we all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend, and I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
Dan, thank you. Thank you so much for that talk and reminding us of the many ways our community grows and flourishes, the many ways we parent, and the many ways we are parented in the process. Go, beloveds, holding the complex feelings of family close, the soft and hard places of our hearts. May we be reminded that the journey ahead is speckled with new friends. Friends that join us on the road to justice, friends we can lean on. May the world ahead be a place of flourishing for all people and the earth. Amen and blessed be.
We have cleared off the table, the leftovers saved, washed the dishes and put them away. I have told you a story and tucked you in tight at the end of your knockabout day. As the moon sets its sails to carry you to sleep over the midnight sea, I will sing you a song no one sang to me. May it keep you good company. You can be anybody you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself, you can gather friends around, you can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. There are kids who grow up strong and bold. There are others quiet and kind. Some race on ahead, some follow behind. Some go in their own way and time. Some women love women, some men love men, some raise children, some never do. You can dream all the day, never reaching the end of everything possible for you. Don't be rattled by names, by taunts, by games, but seek out spirits true. If you give your friends the best part of yourself, they will give the same back to you. You can be anybody you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself, you can gather friends around, you can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. The love you leave behind when you're done.